Hi there, this is Harry Lythall, SM0 VPO from Sweden once again. This is not part of my radio series of films. This is actually a little extra I've just sort of chucked in because, to be honest, it's actually a little bit close to home for me. What I'm going to show you today is how to refill these e-cigarettes. Okay? Now, I'm going to compare prices, but I'll start off by comparing them with the United Kingdom in pounds. Now, one of those can replace 2 packets of cigarettes. So you can be puffing for 2 days with one of these. And these cost you about £5 in England, whereas a packet of cigarettes will cost you £15.75, according to the internet. So it's a lot cheaper, but also, since it replaces 2 packets, you're going to it will replace £31.50 in cigarettes for one vape, for one e-cigarette. I'll just call it a vape from now on. But actually, if you think about it, here in Sweden, a carton of cigarettes costs £50, and in UK it's £157.50 for a carton of cigarettes. You know, it's actually cheaper to go into SAS or Norwegian Airlines and book yourself a couple of single tickets, 5:45 in the morning, get the shuttle over to Stockholm, and you also book your return flight 7 o'clock in the evening and go back to Manchester. Okay? And while you're here, you spend £10 on a card, a travel card from SL, which means you can travel on all the Stockholm buses and on the Stockholm commuter trains. You can even travel on the ferries to the archipelago. So if you add all that up, £80 for the flights, was it £50 for the cigarettes, £10 for the travel card, it's going to cost you £140. So in other words, you go back to England again, having your cigarettes, a whole complete day in Stockholm as a tourist, free travel on the buses and commuter trains, and you still end up with £37.50 in your pocket, instead of just buying 1 carton of cigarettes in England. Good grief. Yes. And by the way, if you really want to stick to smoking, which is not really a good idea, I've been trying to find some good reasons to smoke, and I've only found one. And that one reason is that here in Sweden, they've got these disgusting photographs on every cigarette packet with warnings on it. And one of the warnings is that smoking can cause infertility. Okay. The positive side is that 1 cigarette is cheaper than a condom. Anyway, let's get back to these e-cigarettes or these vapes. Okay? These e-cigarettes, they contain a battery, an element that's heating up some wadding with some oil in it, and there's a pressure switch. And all you have to do is to take it apart, charge the battery, and put some more oil into the wadding. Now, the oil, I buy this stuff online for £10, and that gives me, 50 refills. It's 100 millilitres of iVape Great Cola Ice on this particular flavour, but of course there are other flavours like this mango, berry, magic and so on. Those are nicotine-free, but you can actually order a little bottle to go with it which contains nicotine, and you just add a little drop depending upon how strong you want it. So let's start off now by taking one of these things apart and see what's inside it, and then we'll see how to charge it. Okay? So, here we've got a mouthpiece, and here we've got a bottom plug, and that bottom plug contains the pressure sensor. So I'm going to take a pair of pliers, tongs, whatever you want to call them, and just ease it gently, like this. Now, if you're lucky, the whole of the guts of the e-cigarette will come out in one go. If it doesn't, you're out of luck, then you take the top off. And when you take the top off, exactly the same, wiggle it until the top comes off, and then you push it out using, a pen or the handle of your pliers. And then what you've got is the battery and you've also got the wadding here with the element inside it. Be very, very careful. These wires are very thin, and be careful you don't break them or trap them when you're putting it back together again, because if you do, it won't work, and you can't replace the wires. These wires are deliberately thin, so that in the event of a short circuit, they will burn and act like a fuse. And so these things will prevent the battery from exploding and blowing your teeth out or something. I've actually never ever seen one of these things explode. Right, now to recharge this one, I'll start off by removing this top plug. If, by the way, you found these things on a station platform or in a waste paper basket or something, you can wash these things and then you can reuse them. Okay? Now then, now I've got the top off, I will take my oil, and it's got a little spout here, and you put into there 2 millilitres. So you can just put it in like this, and when it's in there... Now, I've got to point out here that it's difficult to measure 2 millilitres. I could always count the number of drops. But anyway, here's my 2 millilitres. You can see it's spreading down the inside of the tube. And if you use too little of the oil, then the oil will run out before the battery does, and then it will start to char the wadding. And that doesn't taste nice, because it's just like when you used to set fire to the wrong end of your cigarette, when you set fire to the filter, and it tastes disgusting. So what you do is use a lot of oil, and if you use too much oil, squeeze some air out of this one here, stick it in there and suck some oil back. And then when you've done that, you've got the right amount of oil, and so it doesn't drip out. Then you can replace the top into there. You can then get this thing ready, and now, we will charge the battery. And the battery is very, very easy to recharge. We want to get access to the terminals. Incidentally, do not rely on the colour coding of the wires. Sometimes they have red wires connected to the negative of the battery, positive or whatever. But what you should do is to look at the end plates where they've actually got a colour coding. This one's black, and that one here is red. Okay. So the batteries are really like this. They're well marked on the battery itself, and that is the polarity that you should be looking at. So we set the power supply to 300 milliamps. I've got a power supply here, and I'll set that to 300 milliamps. That just limits the current so it won't burn. And now I set the voltage to 4.2. And that 4.2 is very important. So now, when I connect the battery negative to the power supply, connect the positive to the battery positive, and it starts to charge. What's happened is the power supply has turned the voltage down, so it doesn't so you can restrict the current and it doesn't burn the battery. What will happen is that the voltage of the battery will start to rise. And remember that figure, 4.2 volts. When the battery reaches 4.2 volts, it will stop charging of its own accord. So you can leave it connected to the charger 24/7. In fact, you can leave it week after week and it will not overcharge. 4.2 volts. Now then, if you don't have a bench power supply like me, what you can do is to take a USB cable and you just slaughter it. You cut off the end you don't want and you just leave this end here. As long as you've got this end here and then you've got 2 wires at the end, you strip them, and there are 4 wires inside them, and you cut off the unused wires and you leave only the red and the black. Okay? What you do then is you connect the black wire to the negative terminal of the battery. The red wire you connect to the red terminal, but in series with a 1N4001 power diode, just as you see in this diagram. When you've done that, you then plug it into your computer or into a USB charger. Do not use USB-C because they give a lot of current and they're likely to blow the batteries apart. I must say that I've never ever actually seen a battery blown apart. This particular e-cigarette contains a rechargeable battery with a USB-C charger, and you can charge that and then reuse it, and you only buy the oil cassettes. Now these oil cassettes can be recharged. These particular ones will replace 4 cigarettes because they take 4 millilitres of oil. So they're a bit harder to get apart, these things, so please excuse me. I'm going to just like that. Now the bottom part is nothing more than a contact. This makes contact with the battery that's inside the battery unit. And here it makes contact with the bottom of the element. So you can take out this complete assembly here, and this is the cassette that we're going to refill. If you take the bung off the top, now you can insert some oil, and you want 4 millilitres. Again, overfill it until you've got a surplus at the top. And when you've got this surplus, you can squeeze a bit of air out and suck oil back into the bottle. There we go. So that now we've got it perfectly filled. We can now put the rubber back onto the top. We can fit the connector at the bottom of it. And then we can push it into the empty cassette that we should have washed. Now I can continue vaping. They are actually quite nice. Well, I hope that this video has saved you a little bit of money. Well, quite a lot of money actually. One other small point is that these batteries are harmful to the environment. They are lithium polymer, and they're definitely not very good for the environment. But if you take these things apart, you can use the batteries for other things. For example, I've got a little helicopter, 4-channel, radio controlled, and the batteries for that cost in Swedish 225 crowns, but the whole complete vape costs about 80 crowns, well, maybe 120 crowns, depending on which model you get. Okay? And the battery in there is got 3 times the capacity of my helicopter battery. So the whole vape is cheaper than buying a helicopter battery. So whenever I use the vape, I can always use the battery to run my helicopter. I've got 2 of the batteries inside my little microphone amplifier that I'm using right now to speak to you guys. And also I've got loads of these things here. These are all 550 milliamp hours. I even use 3 of these things to power an amateur radio transmitter receiver, my little FT290, and they work quite well. The only thing is, if you've got more than one cell in series, you need to charge them with a balanced charger. But if you haven't got that, you just charge each cell individually. So it takes you 3 steps to charge the 3 of them. Okay? So that's it. How you charge the batteries, how you refill the vape, and how you take them apart and so on. I've shown you everything, haven't I? Right. So that was my little extra film for you guys. Now I shall go and continue with my radio films and hopefully have a little bit of fun with those, because I really do love clipping the videos and making the demonstrations. Okay? So I'll catch you later. Don't forget to go into my channel, and also, if you really did like this and found it interesting, can you click on some of these thingies below? You know, there's all these likes and things like that. And so that way you'll get reminders when I put new videos up. So I wish you all the very best for now, and I will catch you maybe in another film later on. And the next one I hope will be my What is RF video film. So Teddy bye, thank you very much from Harry Lythall, SM0 VPO.